All right, folks. As last session of the day in this room, at least, we have RussellKeith-Magee, who is a almost 12-year veteran of the Django core team. He's shaving yaks these days when working on Beware, not Yakbear. That's something else. He has keynoted at pretty much every not every PyCon, but on PyCon on pretty much every continent except for Antarctica, where the penguins apparently don't like him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's going to talk about yaks and bees again, deploying an app to 6 platforms in 20 minutes. Let's see how that demo goes. Maybe.
Well, thank you, Marcus. As Marcus said, my name is RussellKeith-Magee. If you've heard my name before, it may be because I've been a member of the Django core team for coming up on 12 years. I was president of the Django Software Foundation from 2010 to 2015, and I've served on the Django Technical Review Board for the 1.7 through 1.11 releases. But while the web is still important, both generally and to me personally, for the last couple of years, I've been looking at a different part of the Python ecosystem. Python as a language has a foothold as an education language and as a data analysis language. These are domains where there are smart people, but those people aren't programming experts. And there are rich ecosystems serving those communities. But Python is also used by programming experts, building web tools and operations tools and much more. Python is, by any reasonable measure, a popular language. But computing is changing. Over the last 10 years, we've seen the emergence of a whole new class of computing devices like mobile phones and tablets and watches, devices where you can't use Python out of the box. Now, last year, I was incredibly honoured to be a keynote for this very conference, PyCon Australia, and I spoke at length about what I've been doing for the last couple of years and why I'm doing what I'm doing. For those who weren't here, a very quick recap. For the last couple of years, the work I've been doing has been captured under the umbrella of the Beware project. Beware is my attempt to enable us, the Python community, to Python all the things. I'm trying to leverage the fact that Python is a powerful cross-platform language and use that to provide a way to use Python to build applications that work on these new computing devices and improve the experience for the old platforms that we know and love. The elevator pitch version is that Beware aims to make using Python on these new platforms as simple for native application development as Django makes web development, something that's accessible to newcomers but powerful enough for heavy lifting purposes. So, what is Beware? Beware is an open source project. It's building a set of tools that allow you to write cross-platform, system-native, Python-native applications. It's cross-platform. To the extent possible, the same code should run unmodified on every platform you throw it to. It's system-native. If the end user who starts your application, starts your tool, can tell that the tool was written in Python or that was written using Beware, to my mind, you've failed. Beware tools should turn out looking and feeling exactly like native applications. They should be installed like native applications, be started like native applications. And it's also Python native. That means we're using Python linguistic idiom as much as possible, not just C++ crammed into a Python namespace. It means if you need to install something, it should be pip installable. And any installation processes above and beyond pip install should leverage existing packaging metadata, such as that's provided by dist-utils and setup tools. It should aim to be building on the existing Python ecosystem, not trying to replace it. Now, a widget toolkit is a very big part of this picture, but it's not the only part. Beware also includes tools to get Python running on platforms where you can't just run the Python installer. It also includes tooling to deploy code, and it includes tools to assist in application development itself. And while Beware is a set of well-integrated tools, it isn't a monolith. You don't install Beware. It's a series of small, well-defined tools that play well together. In this way, we're sort of following the Unix philosophy of building tools that do one thing and one thing well. Yes, the Beware tools do all play well together, but if you wanted to replace one part with another part or only use some of the toolchain, it is and should be possible to do so. What does the full Beware toolchain look like? Well, there's Rubicon. Rubicon is a bridging library that enables Python to invoke Objective-C APIs. That's necessary to support Apple platforms like iOS and macOS, both of which provide their native system libraries, their native user interface libraries, in Objective-C. Rubicon is pure Python and uses C types to access those Objective-C APIs, providing transparent access to any native Apple system API. There's also Voc. Voc is a transpiler that takes Python code and compiles it directly to Java bytecode, not to Java source code, directly to Java class files. This means you can call Java APIs, extend Java classes, implement Java interfaces, which is something you need to be able to do if you wanted to deploy onto Android. Then there's Batavia. Batavia is a JavaScript implementation of the CPython virtual machine, which then enables you to execute CPython bytecode, the PYC file, in your browser, which you need if you're going to target the browser as an end platform, as a user interface platform. Linux works mostly without any extra tooling. GTK has very good Python bindings, so we can hook directly into those. And on Windows, we use Python.NET. Python.NET's not part of the Beware project, but we do use it because it is a very nicely packaged up version of access to Windows.forms and so on. Now, those tools enable you to run Python code on various platforms, but you're still calling native APIs on each platform to do that. To get cross-platform, you then need a cross-platform abstraction layer, which is what Toga is. Toga provides a common API for user interface operations. You ask for a Toga button, and on Windows, you'll get a windows.forms.button. On Android, you'll get an android.widgets.button. On iOS, you'll get a UI button, and so on. There's a single API for defining what your application does, which then is then rendered, those abstract instructions are then rendered into platform-specific calls that make that user interface happen. Once you've got your working application, whether you use Toga or not, then you need to package it for deployment, which is where Briefcase comes in. Briefcase is a setup tools extension that takes the project as defined in setup.py and turns it into something that you can run natively. An MSI installer on Windows, an Xcode project for iOS, a .app directory for macOS, a Gradle project for Android, a Django website. Now, there are a lot of tools here, but you don't actually need to interact with most of them. As an end user, the only ones you have a significant surface area are Toga and Briefcase. Toga, in turn, uses Rubicon and Batavia and Voc as needed on each platform. You, as an end user, don't actually need to know that they're being used. Briefcase handles the integration with the various support tools to get the Python code running on the platform where you're going to deploy it. There is another part to the Beware ecosystem. For example, there's Cricket. It's a tool to run and visualize the output of your test suite while you're writing your code. There are a bunch of other tools that help with code deployment, the code deployment and development lifecycle. I won't be demonstrating these bottom tools today. Some of them I will be talking about in a lightning talk tomorrow, hopefully, so keep your eyes open. Now, my keynote last year was purely theoretical, and so far, this talk has been purely theoretical as well. But I'm not just going to get up here and talk wild talk again about Pythoning all the things. I'm going to actually Python all the things live. What the hell was I thinking? So, after sacrificing a kitten to the demo gods, it's time for a demo. How do you write a cross-platform application in Python with Beware? Okay, so, 7 minutes 30 on the clock? Start the timer now. To demonstrate, what I'm going to do is we're going to build a tool to help our United States visitors. We're going to build a Fahrenheit to Celsius converter. Here's a mock-up of broadly what we're going to end up with. There's an input where you can type a temperature in Fahrenheit, some label text, an output widget. There's a calculate button, press the button, magic happens. Now, promise this in 20 minutes. First step, we have an empty directory. We need to put a project into that directory. We create a virtual environment and activate it, okay? Just normal Python stuff so far. Then into that virtual environment, we're going to install Cookie Cutter and use that to bootstrap an initial project. Cookie Cutter, again, is not part of the Beware tool suite itself. It's a tool written by Audrey and Danny Roy Greenfield that lets you use a series of Ginger templates to bootstrap an entire project layout. You give Cookie Cutter a directory or a GitHub repository which stores your templates, and it rolls out their templates after asking a bunch of questions to fill in the blanks in your templates. Beware provides a briefcase template. So we can run Cookie Cutter over our template, it'll answer some questions, and what we'll end up with is a directory full of a working Python project we can start with. A README file, a license file, a setup.py that fills out all our project metadata, and then a freedom directory containing all of our code. Okay, so that's an empty project stub. What we now need to do is to create our app and add some functionality. So let's flesh out our application. In our app.py file, we import the Toga widget toolkit and we define a subclass of toga.app to say, this is the application we're going to define. The application only needs one method for the moment, startup, which describes how to build the visual representation of the application. When the platform starts this application, how do I build what I look like? In this case, what's it going to do? It's going to say, okay, I've got a main window. The name of the main window, the label of that main window is going to be the same as the name of the app. And by the way, this main window actually belongs to the app as well, so we assign it to the app. We're going to have a box of content that we're going to put all of our widgets into. The main window's content is that box, and then show that main window because we've constructed everything we need. Okay, and then we have a mainline, sort of an entry point here that says what we're going to do when the application starts is instantiate an instance of our Freedom application and return it to whatever's running, or running it. So that gives us an empty stub for a Toga application, but it won't actually have any content in it. So how do we lay out the user interface? Well, Toga uses CSS to lay out its content. So let's go back to our original design and break that down into CSS flex boxes. So we actually use CSS3 flex boxes here. Our main content box is broken into effectively 3 horizontal boxes, one for the Fahrenheit line, one for the Celsius line, and then the button, which becomes its own box effectively. So yeah, let's put the widgets into those. So we start off by building up an input, a text input, for Fahrenheit, and a label that says, hey, it's Fahrenheit degrees. The text input we're going to store on the application itself so we can access it again later. We do the same thing for the Celsius line. We're going to have a join label is equivalent to, then we have a Celsius input, which again we store on the app, and a label says it's Celsius. And then a button, which when pressed, will call self.calculate. So we're going to add a new method to our application to calculate what's going on. Okay. We've got all the pieces now, we've got all the widgets, now we just need to put them together. So let's build a box for our Fahrenheit data, a box for our Celsius data. We put the Fahrenheit label and the Fahrenheit input into the Fahrenheit box. We put the Celsius label and the Celsius input and the join label into the Celsius box. And then we add those 3 boxes to the main box. Okay. Then we can apply styles. We're using a CSS flexbox layout, so we can say the main box, the main outside box, is a column box. The Fahrenheit and Celsius boxes are row boxes. The 2 inputs are set to flex equals 1, which means that when the window gets wider and smaller, or wider or narrower, that's the widget. The input is the widget that's going to absorb all that extra expansion. The Fahrenheit input has a left margin of 160. The width of the join label and the margin on the Celsius add up to 160, so that means the 2 text inputs should be aligned left-hand side. Lastly, we need to clean up the loose end from the button. We need to find the callback for when the button is pressed. When it's pressed, we're going to take the value of the Fahrenheit input, just read the value of that input, convert it to a float because it's a string, because it's a text input, subtract 32, multiply by 519, set the Celsius input to be the value of that calculation. And if there's any problems at all, catch the exception, just print question marks into the Celsius field. And there we have it. We've laid out some widgets, set some styles, described what's going to happen when we press a button, put a little bit of light error handling in place, we've got a working application. So now we can run it. If we add Toga to our virtual environment, we can run our app as if it was a normal Python project. The Freedom package has a dunder main file, so it's an executable module. We can just run it. But we can also then put it into a briefcase. We install briefcase. We say Python setup.py macOS -s start the application. And that will package the app as a macOS application, a .app file that you could zip up with an icon and everything, ship it off to someone else, and they'd be able to run it just by unpacking that zip file. Similarly, for iOS, it'll create an Xcode project. For Django, it'll create a Django website. When you're on Windows, it'll create a Windows MSI file. When you're on Linux, it will create a directory with some shell scripts to start the app. Okay, tippity-tappity. Here we go. That's what we're going to do. So we are in a PyCon directory. We're going to start a virtual environment, Python 3 -m venv to create our virtual environment. Boom, and we're going to say pip install -u. I will update pip while I'm at it, just for good measure. Sorry? Oh, yes, sorry, yes, right. This is why I don't live code, I remember. Pip install -u pip cookie cutter. Excellent. Boom, 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 boom. And installing all the pieces that it needs. There we go. And then we can say cookie cutter https github.com/pyb/briefcase template. And that goes and runs. We need to reclone this one because I have used it before. Boom, boom. What is my application going to be called? So the app name is the sort of the Python namespace name that it's going to use. We're going to call it Freedom. Formally, though, it's going to be called Freedom Units. What does it do? It converts Fahrenheit to Celsius. Author is me. The author's email is russell@keith.com. The bundle, this is a resource descriptor, so it's like a reverse namespace that just gives your app a name. It's particularly needed on things like the iOS app stores and Android app stores as a way to differentiate your hello world from everybody else's hello world. So we'll just call it pyapp.org.pyb. What license do we want to use? Okay, we'll just stick with BSD. What GUI framework? We'll use Toga, okay? And there we go. And now we can say, pull up our code here. And we now have a PyCon directory with a Freedom directory, with a license file that's been populated, with a README that folds out what the code is, a setup.py that's got a bunch of information about because it's using Toga, for example, and its bundle is org.pyb, and it's authored by me, and it's a BSD license, and so on. And we also have, in the Freedom directory, an app.py with an empty stub. So let's go and grab all that code here. Oop. Copy and oop. Paste. Save. There we go. Written all that code. I can put that away now. I'm now going to say, okay, pip install Toga, is because I want to have access to the graphical toolkit here, and I can say Python minus m where are we? Freedom. CD Freedom. Python minus m Freedom. Boom, boom, boom. There's an application. Okay, and I can say 123 degrees. Okay, so that is just running it as if it was a Python project. If I push this up to PyPI, I could say pip install Freedom, and I would get this application whenever I ran Python minus m Freedom. Okay, that's fine. But that's not what we want as an end user who's going to have this incredibly important need of converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. What we actually want to have is an installer that makes it look like an application. So let's go over here now to, whoop. You've gone to sleep, haven't you? Boom. Start up our Windows virtual machine here. And in our Windows virtual machine, once it starts up, there we go. All right, let us now come down here and we'll start a new command window. There we go, and we'll go to our Z drive, PyCon. And I've cheated a little bit. I have pre-set up a Windows virtual environment here, so I'll just winenv scripts activate. And then I'm going to say Python setup.py, pip install briefcase. There we go. Oh, I'm sorry, it's running off the bottom of the screen there. Python setup.py Windows and start the app. So what that's doing is going off and building out a full directory of all the code that we need for a Windows application to run. It's building out a installer configuration file. It's running a Windows installer, running it, compiling it, and we end up with a Windows application that has just started. 123 degrees is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 50 degrees Celsius. Okay, that's all nice and well. But that's not the bit we really care about. What we really care about here is in this directory, where we've got our Freedom directory, and we have a Windows subdirectory with a Freedom Units MSI file, which if I double click on it, will say, welcome to the Freedom Unit Setup Wizard. Yes, okay, I'm going to install that. Yes, I want to allow this person to install this application. Boom, 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 boom. Ah, it's installed, that's wonderful. And I can go down to my Start menu and say Freedom, and I have a Freedom Units desktop application that's there, which, if I click on it, starts up. And now for Linux. So let's do the same thing. We can say python setup.py, oops, I need to go freedom, python setup.py Linux -s. Boom, 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 boom. It's going to do the same thing. It goes and gets a template, installs all the pieces that it needs, puts it into a directory, builds a script, and starts up a Linux application. GTK. This is one area we do need a little bit more work. We need the state of application packaging for Linux is a little bit kind of odd, so this needs a little bit more work before it's quite as easy as just an MSI file, but you have got an application here that runs. And 123 is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Oh, can't read Google at the moment. That's good to know. All right, so let's come back here to our Mac box. I'm going to do a little slightly different order here. So we're in our Freedom directory. I'm going to start this one here and say python setup.py Django -s. Sorry, pip install briefcase. Boom. Pip install. Python setup.py Django. Okay, so this is now going to go off and build out a Django application template, fully operational Django install. It's going to download all of its dependencies, all of its Python Django dependencies. It's also going to go and start installing stuff from NPM because it's a JavaScript application, so we need to package it all up that way. Once it has installed all of its stuff from NPM, which is unfortunately going to take a while because NPM doesn't cache stuff locally, or at least not that I've seen, it is then going to move into the Django directory, run your initial migrations, start a Python run server, open up a browser, and point your browser at that application. While we're waiting, let's pop over. Oh, no, actually, we're going to be relatively quickly here, aren't we? It's almost done. No? Yes? All right. The last 5% always takes the longest. There we go. Actually, no. While we wait, let's vn bin activate freedom python setup.py macOS -s. Again, we're going to generate a macOS project directory, download some support packages because we need to have a version of Python that runs here on this Mac that we can package up with our application. Goes, installs all the project code, and once that's done, it will start up. Oops, sorry, we've just got our web browsers just started there, so now we have a web application. 123 degrees Fahrenheit is 50 degrees Celsius, okay? So we now got a web app. We have now also a Mac version. We've seen this one before, so that we might be thinking, hey, why is that so interesting? The reason it's interesting is because what we've got is a macOS directory that contains freedomunits.app, that I can zip that up and give it to someone, or I could just double click on that application and it starts the application. Okay, so 2 to go. All right, so while we're here, we'll say python setup.py iOS -s. Okay, so this is now going to generate not a full working application, it's going to generate an Xcode project. The Xcode project is going to put all its code into there, and it will then start the simulator. Here's my simulator. I'm actually holding my phone on my side here. And it's actually already has the Freedom application there, but processing, it's going to compile the code, and then it will start the simulator. And simultaneously, I will go over here, and I will kill the Django server, and I'll do the same thing for Android. Start the Android device, which is over here. Yes, okay, excellent. Get our 2 simulators up and running, side by side. Yeah, building. Oh, I want to develop. Which device do I want to target? Let's find an iPhone SE. So it's going to build it for an iPhone SE. Compile. Start the simulator. It's already started. Uninstall the old application, install the new one, and copy. There we go, made with beware. Fahrenheit to Celsius converter on iOS. 123 degrees is 50 degrees Celsius. And last of all, We are now doing the same thing on Android. This is compiling here in the background. We've rolled out a whole Android project. We're importing all of our Python code, which we're then running through Voc. Voc is then compiling it to class files, which is then getting turned into an APK file, which is then starting on our simulator. And we've got, on Android, a Fahrenheit to Celsius converter. Okay, so there we go. 6 platforms: macOS, Linux, Windows Desktop, iOS, Android mobile devices, and the web, all showing exactly the same user interface using native widgets in, stop the clock, 17 minutes. So I'm 3 minutes ahead of schedule. Whew. Now, I say 6 platforms, but the one in the middle there, Django, running Toga in a browser, that possibly, depending upon who you are, that might have raised some eyebrows. Now, that's just like a cute experiment, right? Thing is, I don't think it is. The history of the web has been very document-centric. You open a browser, you load a URL, which delivers a document, renders HTML. As documents got bigger, we added navigation tools like menu bars and contextual sidebars. Then we added form elements to the page so you could interact with the content, and we added dynamic aspects to the page so you could change while you were looking at it. What we've ended up with is all the pieces that GUI toolkits had 20 years ago, but it's a bit of a mess to work with because all the tools that we have for designing that layout are tied to the original metaphor of delivering a page of static content. When you think about it, those mechanisms are just primitives. HTML and CSS is how you draw pixels in a browser, in the same way that a native desktop application uses sprites and bitmaps. For all the effort that is put into innovative web design, there is a design language for the web. There are accepted ways to show menus, to display form errors, to lay out a page so it can be easily navigated. A news website has a banner and a menu leading to sections and a couple of columns of content, at least one of which has an image and blocks to links to other content. A social media site has a menu bar at the top and details about you on the left and a continuous scrolling panel of content and panels of related information and some definition of related. The same is true of CRMs and mail clients and almost any other class of website. The websites all functionally operate the same because there is a design language. So if you abstract what you want to build from the language used to build it, you end up with a much nicer interface for building applications for the web. And that's what Toga is providing, an API for describing what a user interface should look like that is independent of its rendering platform. It could be a phone, it could be a browser, it could be a desktop. You don't know. You're just describing what you want your application to do. So, there we have it. That's Beware. Now, some caveats. Beware is not version 1.0. Beware is not even version 0.3. This is early preview stuff, okay? When it breaks, and it will break, you get to keep every single one of the little sharp, shiny pieces that you've got in your hands. But the good news is the hard part. The hard technical problems have been addressed. The hard part is not the widget toolkit. There are plenty of examples of widget toolkits around the web, so it's clearly possible. It's just a matter of dotting your T's and crossing your I's. And new widgets are actually not that difficult to write once you've got the fundamentals down for how do I run code on this platform at all. The hard part is getting Python to run at all. Getting Python on iOS, getting Python on Android. And providing that easy experience to say, and now I want this application to run on Android. Hopefully today I've been able to demonstrate that it is possible, and in some cases even pleasant, to do so. My hope is that this gives you a glimpse into what is possible, and if you're willing to be a little bit experimental, wear some sturdy gloves, what you might be able to achieve with your own projects, and possibly getting involved with the Beware project more generally. So, where to from here? Details on all these projects can be found at pyb.org. Beware is an open source project, and we're actively looking for contributors of all levels of experience, even if you've never contributed to open source before, even if you think you haven't got enough skill. Yes, you do, and yes, we want you. We'll find something for you to do. We've had people contribute to Beware who have commits in Beware repositories who literally learned to use GitHub 2 hours earlier. Relatively easy to get started. We have tutorials and walkthroughs for the contribution process, and we've got an open offer to mentor anybody who wants to get involved. We've also got a phone to give away, thanks to Kogan. We have an Android 4G phone, and we'll be sprinting on both days of the sprints. So come along, pledge your allegiance to Team Green, which I think will make more sense later, and you could possibly win a phone. I will be around to the end of the sprints working on Beware. Thanks to Revolution Systems, I've got a stash of challenge coins, which we give to anybody who contributes. It's a little shiny token of appreciation. Thanks to GitHub, we also have a second challenge coin for Yak herders, people who help other people commit patches. And we've also got all sorts of stickers, if stickers are your kind of thing. If you're owed a coin, you want one, come grab me. The hard sell part, Beware is open source. Its development is, at present, entirely volunteer effort. That constrains the rate of development. But we can address this. For $10 a month, you can join the Beware project as a financial member. If you're a company, we are willing to take more money. We'll do that. We'll sort that out. If I can find 1,000 people in the Python community who want these tools to exist, who think they need to exist, and are willing to support their development financially, I can start working on this stuff full time. I'm currently doing this in spare time. If I can find more than 1,000 people, we can start to do some social good as well. Sometime I've had an open offer to mentor anyone who wants to get involved in open source. I'd like to take the next step and actually be able to hire junior developers to help and give them some exposure in open source code programming as we go. It is still early days for Beware. Financial support means faster progress. Best of all, we can get great tools without having to give up on the open source ideals, and possibly even by improving diversity and improving the tech environment we're in. I'm excited for what the future holds for Beware. I'll be talking about one of those things tomorrow in the lightning talks. I hope you'll join me on the journey. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Russ. That was quite an impressive demonstration, and it apparently worked all. Like demonstration, yes. Like did all the demos in this room today worked? Like something is
good room.
Good room, and thanks up there. As a token of appreciation, at this coffee mug we have at PyCon Australia.
Thank you very much.
There's no time for questions. He used all the time with the demo. There's a short break. I'm not sure how long now, and there is lightning talks in the other two rooms pretty much after the break. Thank you.